Better?
Hello,
Okay.
sir.
Very good.
Okay. Well, this is my first time meeting you. Thank you for stopping by.
Well, I tried a couple of times. Matter of fact, I got here on Tuesday, and I said, okay, I got all Tuesday. Nobody knows I'm here because I came in as a surprise from my former wife, who is the breakfast queen of Chicago, Ina Pinkney.
Oh, the
So-
breakfast queen. Okay.
And so, because they had a celebration for her this week, they 60-some chefs did a presentation up on the north side of one of the event venues, and they had samples from all of the chefs all around, and it was a benefit for one of the food pantries and some other community work that they all do. And she's been very much involved with that since she started a restaurant.
What's the restaurant?
It was Ina's.
Oh, Ida's. Okay.
Ina on Randolph. Yeah, that was my
Okay.
former wife. We were married 33 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you came in for this special
I came in
occasion.
for the celebration.
So you don't live here anymore?
No, I live in Puerto Rico. I've been in Puerto Rico 13 years,
Wow.
and periodically I come off the island. Never in the winter.
Oh.
Never in the winter. This was the only reason. If it wasn't for her having this event and I wanted to be here, I would not have come here any time before middle of June, if at all.
Well, how, were you affected at all by the natural disasters?
Well, we were. We've had the major one we had that everyone knows about, of course, is Maria. That one was in 2017, and that was really a disaster. And we're still in some ways still trying to recover from that.
But it did it affect where you live?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
well, matter of fact, we were staying at my current wife's aunt's house, which has a 2-story, and the second story had a metal roof, and Maria tore the roof off just like it was a sardine can opening up, and she wasn't there. She was up visiting her mother in Massachusetts, and I was there with her aunt, who was scared to death, and we weathered the storm. It was devastating. Power loss, the infrastructure destroyed in many ways, and what happens, what is amazing about all of that is that you watch how the people eventually come back. But the first thing that comes back are the trees. The vegetation, within 2 weeks, you started seeing vegetation coming back.
Oh, because the storm.
Ripped leaves couldn't stay on it. We had winds clocked in the little village next to us at 200 plus miles an hour.
So this is your return here. So let's go backwards. So, can you tell us who you are?
Okay.
And where you're from?
Okay. My name is William Del Torres Pinkney. I am honoris causa PhD from Massachusetts Maritime Academy, Becker College, and Southern Connecticut State University. I am a third-generation Chicagoan. My grandfather was born here in 1871. I lived on the south side the whole time. I came back periodically as an adult and lived in other parts, but I'm basically a south sider, 33rd in Indiana.
Wow.
Douglas School graduate, 1950. Tilden Tech, 1954. So I'm a Chicagoan by birth. I am a Puerto Rican by choice.
Okay.
So,
all right.
so that's
okay.
that's
Is your now wife Puerto Rican? Is your now wife?
Yes,
Puerto
she's Puerto Rican.
is.
She was raised
Okay.
in Ohio. Pennsylvania. So
Okay.
she was born in the town where we live, which is called Fajardo, on the east coast of Puerto Rico.
Okay, and so you are from Chicago, 33rd in Indiana.
Yep.
All right.
Right down the street from Pilgrim Baptist Church. As a kid, I used to hear on Sundays, they would put on the loudspeakers, and I'd sit there on Sundays and listen to Mahalia Jackson sing.
Wow.
Remember, I'm 88 years old.
Wow.
So I go back to that time when that was my growing up time.
And you just come strolling in here just full full of life. And so what is the magic to that 88 and just...
Satchel Paige said it. How old would you be if no one told you how old you were?
Okay. All right. Okay. So you were born in Chicago.
Born in Chicago.
I'm gonna bring
Parents
up the
born in
age thing.
Chicago.
88 years ago.
88 years ago.
What was your childhood like here?
My childhood was very interesting. My father and mother divorced when I was 6. I have a sister who's a year and 9 months younger than me. She lives in Riverdale, I think, now. But it was interesting growing up on the South Side. At that time, we were a very enclosed city within ourselves, because we had our own institutions. Everything was ours here in Brownsville. And
when you say ours, you mean who? Black people?
The black people. It was ours. Starting at 31st Street, going down to 63rd Street, starting at Whitworth, going east to Lake Park. That was this. And we had everything there. We had South Center Department Store on 47th Street. Buy anything you need. Tailors, haberdashers, shoe repair, everything. 47th Street, 43rd Street, 51st Street. That was it. We had the Regal Theater, where all of the great names played, because it was part of the Chitlin circuit. We had a Savoy Ballroom, where a lot of the great musicians there. And we had roller skating on alternate nights. Next to it, in the open air, was a boxing arena. My first boxing match, almost, I saw that. My father, when I was about 6, took me to see Sugar Ray Robinson fight. But they had bleachers. You know, the bleachers you walked up, and the fight was just started when we got there. The bell rang as we were climbing up to the bleachers. Before we got to our seat, it was over. Okay. Knocked him right out.
Wow.
Never saw the fight.
And that whole, the place to view this fight was right in the neighborhood.
It was right around 47th and South Park.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. What were your parents like? What did you said your dad was born here?
My dad was born here. He was a houseman. Matter of fact, he got kicked out of Tilton for fighting. So my mother didn't have a lot of education, read a lot, well-spoken. My grandfather owned 4913 South Park. That was his building, a gray stone building. He had
Is it still there?
parts of, no, the building had a fire, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. Okay. And they tore it down. I drove by it just now, and it said open lot. Matter of fact, most of the places where I used to play are now just fields of grass.
That's really good. Your grandfather, how did he was born here? How did his dad come here?
Huh?
Do you know the story of how his dad came to Chicago?
I didn't know much about that.
Okay.
But especially because once my parents became estranged, I would spend some time with him, with my grandfather, but not my father, but my grandfather, and my grandmother on my mother's side. I knew more about them. My grandmother on my father's side, his mother died when he was young, and my grandfather remarried. Well, the woman she married was all from Texas and that place, and they all brought their family in, so their family, the Brantleys, just overshadowed him as the only Pinkney. And later on I found out, matter of fact, we're having a reunion in July in Puerto Rico of the Pinkney family. I am now the patriarch of the Pinkney family.
Okay.
Which came as a shock to me, because we had a first reunion in 2019, and we're meeting all the people and all the relatives and everything, and the Shadi Harris, who put it all together, he said, well, and now we're going to have a few words from the patriarch of our family.
He's like, who is that?
And I'm sitting there saying,
where is it?
Who's it?
Yeah.
And he said, he says, yep, you're the patriarch.
Wow. How does that feel?
That's scary, because what comes after patriarch? Ancestor. I'm not into that too much.
Okay. I say the same thing. I feel you on that. I feel you. So let me ask you, you said the Pinkney family. Are you related to the Pinkneys that do all the books?
Oh, Jerry Pinkney.
The author
No,
and illustrator?
no, I know Jerry Pinkney.
Okay.
I knew his wife Gloria, and his son. His son is a great scratchboard artist. He's a great illustrator.
Okay.
I was hoping that the time would come when I wrote a book, this book would be illustrated by Jerry, because he did a lot of stuff with Julius Lester. He's done a lot of stuff with a lot of great writers, and his illustrations were so vivid and lifelike.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Jerry passed away way before I got to this book.
So you talked a little bit about where you went to school. What did you do for a living? Now we're moving.
Well, this is a long and sordid story.
Okay.
I went to Providence Hospital X-ray school, and for 2 years, and I got my registry as an X-ray technician. Although I never worked in Chicago as an X-ray technician. After I graduated from there, I went in the Navy, and that's what I did in the Navy for the whole time. X-ray, I was an X-ray technician, hospital corpsman, and I did that. And then when I left the Navy, I moved to Puerto Rico. And because it was my last duty station there, and I fell in love with it. And the day I got discharged was in December 19th in Bayonne, New Jersey, in a snowstorm, after being stationed for the last 9 months in Puerto Rico. And I said, I don't think so. Bought a $99 ticket, moved to Puerto Rico, and I lived there for 3 years. And there I
By yourself?
By myself. I was there. I didn't do X-ray there. I helped the guys load the bumboats, and that's when I started sailing. And I helped them load the bumboats.
Oh, that's how you started sailing?
That's how I started sailing. I started sailing there. And then I would help them. We'd sail out to the various islands, part of Puerto Rico, and also into the U.S. Virgin Islands, delivering things like cases of Coca-Cola. Because the only place at that time, this is 1950, 57. So at that time, there was no big trade going on. The big ships didn't come there that much. So if you came to Puerto Rico, that has Sears and Montgomery Ward's and those stores. And if you lived on one of those islands, you come there and you buy all the things that you wanted. If you had a little store, you'd get your supplies and staples there. And then they would load them on these little wooden sailing vessels, and they would sail them to you and deliver it. And I wanted to go to the island, so I figured, I went down, talked to the guy, said, hey, I'll help you load if you take me on the trip. And that's how I went back and forth, and that's how I started sailing.
Is that right? And this was in the 1950s?
This was the 1950s. So I saw an ad for a job for the San Juan Star, which was the English-speaking paper. I went there, and I got a job as a gopher. You know, go for this, go for that. I did that. And then I saw another ad for a job for an English-speaking person, or man, actually, an English-speaking man, who knows his way around tools. My uncles were jack-leg plumbers and carpenters and electricians and all that. So I grew up around all that. So I got a job with Otis Elevator as an elevator mechanic.
Well, that's a really good job.
That was a good job for me down there, and I had a good time with that. But my pastime was to go out to go to some of the clubs there. One was called the Calypso Club, and they happened to have a limbo contest every Friday. And I was there, and I said, I can do that. And I got out, and I won a limbo contest.
What?
And I won a bottle of champagne. I was happy. A couple of weeks later, I went back, and it was during the summer, and a lot of teachers would come down there in groups, you know, for the summer vacation. And there's these tables of 4 or 5 women all over, and I did the limbo, and I won. Got the bottle of champagne. I said, We'll go over to the table. I always won this bottle of champagne. I can't drink this all by me. Would you ladies help? Oh, sit down.
Is that how you met your wife?
Huh?
That's how you met your wife?
No.
Oh, that's how you made friends.
No, I was living there. That's how I met the ladies.
That's how you met the ladies.
So that was fine until one night the lady who owned the club came in, and I won a limbo contest. She said, no, I won under a limbo like this. She said, no. That's not enough for the champagne. Do it lower. And they lowered it to about there, and I went out and did it. Said, no, that's not lower enough. And I ended up doing it about this high. And she said, you can never do the limbo.
About how high?
That's professional level.
Way down there.
Yeah, like this.
Okay,
maybe,
right off
maybe
the
2
floor.
feet off the ground.
Okay.
That's professional level. You can't do it. So that killed me with hanging out with the ladies. But the guy that led the steel band there said, I have a friend that has a club where he has to play at a club, and he looking for a limbo dancer. So I went and I worked there. And then another guy came from one of the major hotels. I got a job with him, and I worked at the Escambron Beach Club, which was at that time one of the top hotels. And I worked at the Beach Club. I did a limbo dance, and at the same time, the twist had just come out. So I would do my limbo dance, and I would come back and get dressed in another costume, and with the Puerto Rican girl from New York, we go out and we do the twist and get the people up to dance, and that was the whole thing. But the rule was I could come to work, go to my dressing room, put on my costume, go out, do my act, do my performance, come back to the dressing room, change into my clothes, and leave the premises. I was not allowed to stay in the hotel or to be in a hotel.
Wow.
The girl that I danced with, she could. The band members could, but
Why?
I couldn't, because I was billed on the billboard at the entrance of their showroom. Del Torre. They took it from my middle name. Del Torre, Mr. Limbo from the island of Tortola. Now, do I sound like I'm from Tortola? So the minute I start talking to somebody, they look askance at, that they've been scammed. This guy's not. So I had to leave. That was all right. I didn't mind that. Till one day I'm walking down the street. These 3 ladies are coming down the street. And you're the guy that did a limbo. I said, yes, that's me. He said, we were looking for you after the show. I'm saying, what? On Friday we get paid. Joe Myers, the head of the band, would pay everybody in cash at his house. And most of these boys were from small islands, from St. Kitts, from Nevis, from Anguilla. They weren't very sophisticated. He started a crap game. Win all his money back that he paid these boys.
Oh, wow.
Or you see skin them.
Right.
I'm from Chicago. I ain't going for that.
Right.
I said I would leave. But when after this incident, I started hanging out with them.
Oh.
So the reason I started hanging out, because if I talk like they do, I'm one of them, right? So I got myself a West Indian accent. My son called the birds out the trees. Everybody thought I was from the islands.
Mm-hmm.
They said, where you from? I said, I'm from Chicago. No, man, you're sharing your heritage. You're from the island. What island are you from? It was working. So then I got a chance to hang out at the club at the end of my show, and out on the beach on Sundays. We had a beach. We played on the beach on Sundays.
So wait, I got a couple of questions. Let's pause for 1 second. The limbo, that was that popular there? Like,
It's still popular in the Caribbean.
It's still popular.
Oh yeah.
In the Caribbean. What is the limbo dance?
The limbo
Can
dance.
you still do it?
Huh?
Can you still do it?
I'm 88 years old, lady. My knees can't take it. It's true
Okay.
that you have to have very good knees and balance.
Is it what I think it is? Like you're just leaning back, going under
You
a
have to
bar.
go under a bar.
Yeah, and you're dancing just
And nothing can touch
rhythmically.
but your feet.
Oh, okay. Yes.
If anything touches other than your feet, then you're not doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it under fire.
But you have to
also.
be doing some kind of
Oh, you
movement,
dance, so you
dancing.
dance
Yeah.
around and do that.
Okay.
But it's a traditional, it's an African-based dance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the Caribbean, of course, with the steel band music, it was a natural.
Oh, wow. Now I'm doing the math also. You said you're 88 and you said you moved to Puerto Rico 13 years ago?
This time, yeah.
This time.
Oh, I had a whole life in between the time that I only stayed there 3 years.
First
I came back to the States in 61.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
from 61 till 2010, when I moved to Puerto Rico, there's a whole nother life in there,
Right.
which covered a lot of different things.
A lot of different
I don't say I had a misspent youth. I say it was poorly appropriated.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, it wasn't misspent.
I like
It's
that.
poorly appropriated.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so tell us about, I imagine that you gathering the information for the experiences that we now find in this new book of yours is
Well,
in that gap
Well,
space.
there was a lot of things happened.
Let me
prior to
pass that to you so you can show that
Yeah.
on
Well,
camera
okay.
to the people.
The book itself is the story of my solo circumnavigation of the world from 1990 to 1992.
Mm.
Well, how did I jump from there to this? I came back and I lived, when I came back from Puerto Rico, I lived in New York. And then I came back to Chicago and I lived here, where I was brought here by Revlon, who I happened to work at. Well, let me go back because I'll show you how I did that. I worked in the, I worked at X-Ray when I got back, because limbo dancers in New York are a dime a dozen, so I couldn't make any money at that. So I fell back on my old trade, and I was working as an X-ray technician, and I worked on patients with cancer. And at that time, if you had cancer, the radiation treatment was just a holding action. There was none of the things that we have today were even dreamed of at that point. So, but I was starting to see more and more people my age coming back, and because of that, I just found it hard to be detached from them, and you can't do that if you're in the medical profession. You have to be professional and be able to not become emotionally involved. So I said, I can't do that anymore. I always wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be an architect when I was a kid. Couldn't do that. So I always drew. I said, well, how can I make money and do something artistic? I said, makeup. So I went to the GI Bill, went to hairdressing school in New York. That's what's required for makeup. And I studied with Richard Corson, and I started in the makeup in the film industry. At that time, most of the TV commercials were shot in New York City because the advertising agencies were there. Very, very little was done in California. So I was a member of the Makeup Art and Hairdressers Union in New York City, and I did people like Red Buttons. I did who else did I do? I did covers for Essence. I did 3 covers for Essence. I did feature films with Sam Waterston, who from Law and Order. The blonde woman from WKRP in Cincinnati. Julie Anderson, Lonnie Anderson. I did her. I did Roberta Flack. I did Billy D. Williams. I did him for a cover. I did a lot of things in makeup, and I was in the film industry, and I got picked from the film industry by Revlon to come and develop a line of products for them, and I did the first black-focused makeup products, polished ambers, that Revlon ever did.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we did that, and also I worked with a startup company that never got off the ground too much, called Astarte, and I don't know if I have a picture of it. All the models now, it's a big thing that they shave their heads and stuff. 1974, we were doing that. Pat Evans, a black model, couldn't get work, and one of the things that she said, that they weren't hiring black models, she said, I want to stand out from all the rest. And what she did at that point, and she became the symbol for our line of makeup products. And
was this around the same time that Cicely Tyson dared to be featured with the short fro?
Oh no, this was before fros were a big deal. This is like 70, 71. And here it is. And this was our line, and that's Pat Evans.
Oh.
That was way before it became
That's
popular.
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm trying to see if I can
Yeah,
show
you see
this.
that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I worked for Revlon. I worked for Revlon for a number of years, and I got spirited away from them to work for Johnson Products Company, and I worked for Johnson Products Company as their director of makeup for Johnson Products Company, and I left Johnson.
Did you go to school for this, for makeup?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I got a license in I apprenticed in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So by this time I had done feature films.
Yeah.
With a number of feature films.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went from feature films to Revlon, from Revlon to Johnson Products Company. And then I left Johnson Products Company, and a friend of mine in the hair care industry, his girlfriend was appointed by Jane Byrne to be the head of the Department of Human Services, Lenore Cartwright. And knowing what politics is here in Chicago, she wanted someone to watch her back, and because they were responsible for all of the outreach, graphics, press releases, and all that for the Department of Human Services. So with my marketing background with Revlon and Johnson, I became the head of public information for the Department of Human Services. And I had photographers, graphic artists, writers, and secretaries, and we produced all of the printed materials that had anything to do with the Department of Human Services.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and that's when I started working on my idea of going to do my around the world, because I did it for my grandchildren so that they would have bragging rights, because they weren't going to get any money. I wasn't making it enough to leave them anything, but they would have bragging rights that their grandfather had done something unique.
Okay.
And as a benchmark of making a dream a reality, what it would take, and how commitment, which is the name of my boat, pays off.
You still have that boat?
Oh, that boat's
No.
long gone.
Okay.
I've been trying to find it. Last time I saw it was in Fort Lauderdale about 3 years ago. And I'm trying to find it because the Mystic Seaport Museum wants to make it an exhibit.
Yeah.
But we haven't been able to find it.
What size was the boat?
It was 47 feet long, 62 feet high.
So tell us about the event that would give the grandchildren the bragging rights. What did you do?
That was to sail solo around the world, underneath the continents of the earth, under the 5 Great Capes, including Cape Horn, which is the southernmost tip of any inhabited continent, because there are no, and the other 2 continents, of course, Antarctica and the Arctic, and they're not inhabited. So that's the trip all the way around the world alone. The first man to do it alone was Robin Knox Johnston. He did it in a 53-foot wooden boat that leaked with no electronics, because they didn't have it. He did it in 1968. And he ultimately became my mentor, because I was going to go through the Panama and Suez canals, and he convinced me. He said, if you do that, he said, and another black man comes and goes around the Cape, they'll never know your name. And the first black man to do it through the Panama and Suez Canal just passed away 2 weeks ago. His name was Teddy Seymour from St. Croix. No one knows who he is. Nobody, and he was right. And bringing the school children involved came from Douglas School reunion. I was talking to people. I told them that I was going to sail around the world. The principal grabbed me and said, "You got to come and tell the kids." So I went and I talked to a 5th grade class. I was going to write to my grandchildren. That's all I was going to write to my grandchildren. And I said, "Did this?" They said, "Will you write to us too?" I said, "Yes, I'll write to you too." I got a call a week later from Marge Harrigan, who was the head of curriculum for Chicago Public Schools. Said, "I'd like to talk to you about what you're doing with Douglas School." I said, "Fine," because I figured I'd have to get permission to do this with the kids. Came down, told her everything I wanted to do, and she said, no, you can't do that. I said, "Well, fine, no, not leave. You have to make this school and system-wide. You got to you need to develop some curriculum, communication." I said, "Wait a minute. I got my little boat. I'm going to go around the world by myself, and that's what I'm going to do." She said, no. So I ended up with not my 32-foot boat, but a 47-foot boat. Not 2 grandchildren, but 30,000 grandchildren in Chicago and Boston, because Boston was where my major financial support came from a group in Boston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how does that happen? How did you secure that?
I'll tell you how it happened. I wrote letters. I've got, next book I'm gonna do is just a book of letters. All the letters and replies I got from everybody. I have letters from Donald Trump. I have letters from Ross Perot. I have letters from all of the major corporations. One of the things that, in there you'll look and you'll see, I think it's in there, you'll see a big ad from McDonald's. And it says, well, how far would you go to teach a kid a lesson? And that was one of the things. But I got support.
Wow.
The sad thing about all of the support I got not 1 cent from any major black company. Not one. Even Johnson Products Company, who I worked for 3 years, nothing.
How much did the trip cost?
Altogether, probably about $480,000 to $500,000.
Wow. In what year?
1990.
In 1990, and you did approach.
I approached. I got a stack of letters that high, and all the letters and I got the one I got from Johnson Publishing was terrible. Because it was auto printed. So there's my name. Here's a paragraph, the first paragraph. There's that much space, and there's another paragraph down here. I'm saying, you're a publishing company. How could you let a letter come out like that? I mean, it was. Don't get me started on that. But
these were.
And during the whole thing, I even talked to Lerone Bennett, our great. You know what he did? He said, "Well, you should keep a journal. That's what you need to do. Let me show you around Johnson Publishing." I went there with the hope that he would say, "Well, why don't you, send me notes about where you are, and maybe we will carry a series of it." I never got one series, nothing. I got
write up.
Ebony magazine, no. And Jet, I got one little piece like about that big. None of the things. When I came back. When I came back for that trip. Oh, when I worked for the Department of Human Services, I had a photographer. Her name was Michelle Eggins. Michelle was the photographer for Harold Washington. She went to the Charlotte Observer. From the Charlotte Observer, she went to the New York Times. She was the first black woman photographer that New York Times ever had. She's still with New York Times. She won the equivalent of an Oscar in photography. It's called the Lucy Awards, and they do it every year at Carnegie Hall. She won on the 25th of April of last year. She won the Lucy Award. On the 26th of April, at the Manhattan Club in the Metropolitan Club in New York, I received the America and the Sea Award from Mystic Seaport, the largest maritime museum in the country. So 2 Chicago kids made out. We own New York for that reason.
Okay, very cool.
And the picture she took of me was the picture that the guys saw in Boston that decided that they wanted to do something for the kids here in Chicago because they made a lot of money here. They refinanced the Sears Tower when it was the Sears Tower. So that's how.
That's who funded you?
No, they're the four guys from that company. Not the company.
Oh, 4 individuals.
4 individuals.
Spent their personal money to fund
Personal money.
400 and something thousand?
$400,000. They got the boat at the end of the boat went to them because that's all they got. The only thing they only asked me for 2 things in all these years, and that was 30 years it's been said. 2 things. One, to come and be the guest speaker at the Black History Month Award at a high school in Massachusetts because one of the guys' son was in charge of the group.
This is a white guy?
They're all white, the 4 guys. I told you, all my money came from that. All the press I've got a press book this thick with every major publication in the country.
Yeah.
Also from the Korean National News, the Jewish Forward, I got from everybody.
Wow.
Sports Illustrated, Time Magazine.
Wrote about you?
Yes.
What? While you were, is it when you got back or
When I
while
got-
you were
when I
in
got
the
back.
journey? Okay.
But there were some people, some smaller papers were carrying things that I was doing through the schools.
So can you tell me what was it like so it cost you 400 and something thousand, 400 and
For the
what?
boat, for the equipment,
For the trip.
to do the
overall.
whole trip, everything.
How much?
About 485, I think.
About $485,000. Okay.
The boat was 240,000.
It was new when you got it?
It was specially built for
Oh.
that. It wasn't built specially for me. It was built especially for a Mark Schrader to sail in the around the world race. And when I was looking for a boat, I checked all the boats that were capable of doing, and I saw that boat, and I said, that's the boat I wanted. 23 boats started that race, 13 finished. The only one that finished with no damage or mechanical breakdown was that boat. And I said, that's the boat I want to go into.
Wow. Okay, so tell me what that was like. You sailed around the world
Yes.
by yourself
I
in
did.
1990
90 to 92. 2 years,
to
22
92. How
months.
old were you then?
I was 55.
At 55, and you go around the world. And first of all, you have this idea. It's quite a heavy lift because you have to get the money to do it,
Yeah.
and then you have
Well,
to be able to
it started out with just my grandkids. I had the boat. I had a boat, and I was going to do it with my own boat.
with your own boat.
But what happened is it got out of hand. I lost control of what I really wanted to do, and it went boom.
Okay, it
It
grew.
went viral.
It
Yep,
grew.
It
Okay.
grew.
All
Like
right.
Topsy.
And then, so how did you get to these 4 guys who gave you the money? Just touch on that a little bit.
No, Michelle Eggins who worked for me at the Department of Human Service,
The
works now for the
photographer?
New York Times, huh?
The photographer?
Yeah, the photographer.
Okay.
Was here in town on assignment with a writer from the New York Times to do a bit on girl gangs. Michelle, being from Chicago and the South Side, she knew the ins and outs of it. And they came by the dessert kitchen, which was my wife's business at the time, because she had a commercial bakery serving small restaurants. So she came in town and said, "Hey, what you doing, Bill? What's up?" I said, "Well, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to." And by that time, I had gotten a down payment on the boat. I got the boat moved from Annapolis, Maryland, here, and we were trying to raise money. She said, "Oh, I got to go see the boat." So we went down. She took pictures of me on the boat. She came back. She was a tough sister. She said, "That man's going. They're going to write something about the New York Times. Going to write a piece on this." And I said, "Well, if she said it." About 3 days later, I get a call from the guy who's the stringer for the New York Times. He says, I would like to come over and do an interview for an article." The article was supposed to be in the paper when he called me a few weeks later on Thursday. So Thursday I went out for the New York Times, got it, no article. Okay. Friday I went out and got it, no article. Saturday, nobody reads the New York Times on Saturday. Who knows it? Nothing on Saturday. Sunday, the New York Times comes out with my article in it. The best thing, or the biggest New York Times.
Feature.
Yeah, because
Biggest day of circulation.
that's a big day. Sunday.
Yes.
Everybody reads it nationwide. This guy up there, Tom Eastman, saw the article and he said, "That's interesting. This young man's trying to do something for the kids in Chicago and everything. We made a lot of money in Chicago." And he brings in one of his partners and said, "This would be great for us to be able to give back to," because these guys are philanthropists. One guy has, Peter Aldrich, has adopted 5 kids from various countries in South America. All those kids now are all grown, have grandchildren and stuff. Every Christmas I got a picture of them as they grew up. So I've seen them all since they were little kids when they came here. I mean, they were all philanthropic, good guys. They're guys that did the right thing.
Yeah.
Something good for the right reason.
Mm-hmm.
They were making money, and this is what we wanted. And if you met them or saw them on the street, you wouldn't recognize them from anybody. Nothing special, no fancy jewelry, no big cars, nothing. That's what they felt they would do. And they saw that article, and they contacted me, and that's how I got my major sponsors. I had some small sponsors before. I got $20,000 from the billionaire Arm & Hammer from Occidental Petroleum. gave me $20,000
Off a letter you wrote?
off of the fact that he wanted to get on television to talk about cancer research, and at the time the biggest show there was the show with Bill Cosby, and so Bill Cosby told him about my project. And
How did he know?
Because Bill Cosby and I were in the Navy together. We went through 16 weeks of hospital court school together in Bainbridge, Maryland.
What?
Yeah.
Did you know him?
Yeah, I knew him. We spent our time in the Navy. You definitely, when you're in the military with somebody, it's like a brotherhood.
What was that like? You know, I met.
Well, he was funny and all that, but then when I went out and I did my, after we left boot camp, he went to Bethesda, Maryland. I went to Naval Air Station Jacksonville. So we didn't see each other again till we both got out. And he was going to Temple, and he used to come up to the village to do his comedy act. And I was playing in an Afro-Cuban band across the street. So we'd see each other, all the weekends when we were both in town.
Did you ask him for any money?
I didn't ask him for anything. The only reason he knew that he knew about it.
Why not?
Wait a minute. I did. He was doing something.
Go ahead.
He was doing his thing. I was doing my thing. I mean, this is my Navy
No,
buddy.
I mean when you were raising funds for the boat.
No. What happened was the $20,000 I was able to put down on the boat came because Arm & Hammer went to him to want to get on the show, on his show. He said, "Okay, you can do it, but you got to help my friend."
Oh wow!
And that's what. So he didn't give his money, but he gave.
But he made the money possible. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So that's how that was a connection there.
Okay.
And the unfortunate thing is he's fallen from grace for whatever.
Yeah, I met him. I really liked him. He was a nice guy. He held conversation. We talked about Black studies, and I told him how we used his work in my classes and things like that. And he was appreciative of that, and was giving myself and another African American studies professor tips and saying, "Yeah, make sure." He was very sincere, and and the way he did was very calm.
Everybody's got somewhere inside them they have a dark side. It does not stop them from being a good person otherwise. I mean, everything he did, I mean, it's...
So tell me, what was a day like on the water? At this time, by this time, were you a seasoned sailor?
Oh, I had been sailing out here on Lake Michigan.
Okay.
Because when I had lived here, I had raced on. I've done the Mac 12 times. I've been a sailor. I was a seasoned sailor when I was in. I had never sailed a blue water out in the open ocean, but I was a seasoned sailor when I took off.
Okay, so what was it?
First thing you do in the day is try to see what you can do to keep the boat afloat. If there are no problems, you're all right. If there's a problem, you got to fix them right now. Can't let them get worse. So that was your daily routine. You start out from the top with your binoculars and check and see all your fittings, that they're all tight, all the way down through your sails, no rips, no seams torn, and you go through and you check everything. First thing. Then you eat. Then I would do my communication. I had a satellite transponder on the boat.
How did you eat? How long was the trip?
The trip was 22 months.
22 months. How did you have a supply of food?
Hormel, I wasn't nonstop. I stopped 5 times. Hormel Corporation was just making what they call retort packaged food, which was fully cooked food, sterilized and vacuum packed, which meant you didn't have to refrigerate it. All you had to do was eat it, warm it and eat it. And I ate well. I had lasagna, chicken, sweet and sour chicken, Salisbury steak, chili con carne. I ate well.
Okay.
Because I was one of the pilot programs for this food, which they were going to take out nationally. They ultimately didn't do it. They ended up repackaging and setting it up to become MREs, which the military uses.
So that was your food, and then after that, you got the whole day. So now what do you do?
Oh, not the whole day.
Okay.
Again, I got to sail the boat.
Okay.
You got to trim the sails. You got to do that. I had a wind vane and an automatic pilot and all that, but I had to do that. maintenance on the boat. I would read, I would write, I would communicate. I had a radio, a long-range radio. I would communicate to a ham operator in Massachusetts who would hook me into the phone lines, and the phone lines I could call schools to talk to them and do that.
Oh, you would call the schools?
I spoke to a number of the schools.
Great.
Yeah.
So they were kind of keeping up with the whole journey.
But they had each city had programs
That is
that
so
followed my
cool.
whole trip around the world, where I was, what I was doing, and they could follow me every day from because I had a satellite that would send where my signal was, and they would get my latitude and longitude, and they could track me exactly
How cool is
every
that?
6
What
hours.
a great way to teach geography or something.
Well,
as well.
geography, it was really the beginning of the STEM program, because I used all of the methods that are in the STEM program to sail around the world.
Mm.
Science, math, technology, what else is the other one? Science, technology, ecology. And so they were all involved in that, because I would tell them what I was seeing. I saw some really disastrous things in the Pacific, large areas, maybe a mile across almost, of just floating plastic junk in the middle of the pristine Pacific Ocean. I mean, things like that.
Did you take pictures and stuff?
Yeah, I did pictures, and we did some. I couldn't do any research stuff because I didn't have the equipment to do that.
Yeah.
But I made it a point of saying that these are the things that are out there that I know.
So tell me, what was the
No, don't ask me what was the best place or the best time, because everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, because every place was different.
Right.
And you can't compare
No,
apples and oranges.
Well, I was gonna ask something like that, but not that. I wanted to know. I want to know what was the most fulfilling thing about that journey. Because it's 22 months.
For me, when I came into Boston, I came into Boston Harbor, and Old Ironsides is there. That's USS Constitution, the oldest commissioned vessel in the United States Navy. And the piers are very high. When I got about 5 miles out, coming in, my sponsors, some of them had a powerboat, and they came out and they gave me a giant flag, and the flag was the symbol flag for the company that built the boat. And what they had sent it around to the schools,
Mm-hmm.
and the schools had the kids that signed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this flag, and they brought it out, and they said, "Bill, we want you to fly this flag because the kids are on it." And he said, some of the kids are down on the dock, and they'll be there, and they'll see it, and they really like that. I said, "Fine, not a problem. I'll do that." So I'm sailing in, and I have the flag up, and I can't see because the dock's really high coming in. This is the boat. This flag. This was built for me to sail into Cape Town, into Cape Town, South Africa. I had it built by Horizon Sails here in Chicago to take. So when I sailed into Cape Town, they'd know who I was.
Wow.
Okay. So I came in to the dock, and I was low dock, and the pier's like up here, and there's a gangway up there. But I'm at this floating dock, and my wife was there. Matter of fact, my first grade classmate was there because he was the what do you call it? The anchorman for NBC News here in Chicago.
Okay.
He and I were in the first grade at Corpus Christi School, and I went to Corpus Christi only because it was across the street from where my grandparents lived. I'm trying to find a picture of the thing in Boston. Anyway, so I get off the boat. My wife's there. I was Commodore of the Belmont Yacht Club up on the north side. The Commodore and his wife were there. There's a lot of people there. The first American to sail nonstop around the world was there. You have to excuse me. I get things when I got so many things in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember names right quickly. I mean, they come back. It's like I have to go in the file and say, well, who was that? Who was that? Dodge Morgan. Dodge Morgan was there. He was the master of ceremonies. But I walk up this gangplank, and when I came in, there's a shot fired, boom, a cannon shot from the Constitution, and I walk up, and the gangplank. When I got to the top of the gangplank, I look, and that pier has got to be, well, as long as the Constitution and the Navy boat. There have to be 1,500 kids, all down the pier, who had been in the programs. That was one of about 5 things in my life that have really just, whoa, just got me. I mean, that got me to do it. And they were having flags, welcome home, Captain Bill. I mean, that was something else. If you go on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
and you look up The Incredible Voyage of Bill Pinkney, and you'll see the whole video that was done about the trip and about my coming into Boston, and you'll see what it was like when the kids came up. And the Navy band was playing. I'm a Navy vet, right? And they gave me a hat, U.S. Navy. That was a big thing. Now, the other thing one of the other of the 5 things, when the ceremonies and everything was done today, there was an evening ceremony that they had. That was the VIPs, the aldermen, the lieutenant governor. I mean, all the bigwigs were there, aboard the Constitution. Now, the Constitution is a Navy ship. It is manned by Navy personnel,
Mm-hmm.
just like any other Navy ship. The tradition on naval vessels is when a dignitary or VIP comes on that boat, a bosun who has a little whistle. I know you hear the whistle. Well, that's the bosun's pipe. What the bosun, when they come aboard, he pipes them aboard. And there are, like, usually, depending on who you are, there are 2, 3, or 4, what they call side boys. These are men in uniform, enlisted men in uniforms, who are your escorts while you're on the vessel. The captain, the officer of the deck, when you come up, you don't step on the ship. You ask for permission to come aboard, and he gives you permission. If you're military, you turn to the back toward the, not before you step on, turn to the back of the ship where the American flag is, you salute the flag, and then you step on board. And on the PA system, they announce who you are, not your name, who you are. And that is, if you're the commander of submarines Atlantic, arriving sub-lat Atlantic, and you come on. And when you go off, they do the same thing. Not your name, but your command. 8 years in the Navy, 3 ships. I've been through the whole time. Now here I am, I come up, I'm coming on the Constitution. I'm in civilian clothes because I'm not in the military now. Turn to the flag, turn to the flag, and I don't salute because I'm not in uniform. I turn to the flag, acknowledge the flag, and I ask the officer of the deck permission to come aboard, and he'll say, permission granted. They pipe, and over the loudspeaker, they said, commitment arriving, and I almost lost it right there. The vice president, the president, foreign leaders, when they come aboard a Navy vessel, they are announced exactly like that.
Wow.
You know, they'll say, POTUS arriving, which is President of the United States, or they'll say, Vice President of the United States, or whoever, King of England, whoever.
Wow.
Little colored kid from the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
I mean, and we had to have the ceremony itself was great,
Cool.
but
Listen, I would be. I wish they could have. Wish it, there's no way to know for sure, but I wonder if any of those young people ended up with boats and appreciating that.
Well, well, I don't know about some of them, but some of the people there are a lot of people out in Jackson Park Harbor that have known about me over the years are there because of that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So tell me, what was the most challenging thing you faced?
Raising the money.
Raising the money.
I came that close to not making it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about when you were out by yourself those 22 months? Were you ever, 22 months is a long time. I mean, that's just barely short of 2 years.
One day at a time.
Okay.
If you're 22 years old, you've lived those 22 years one day at a time.
What did you learn most about yourself in those 22
Well,
22
sailing
months?
period will teach you. I learned about the sea, I learned about weather, I learned about navigation, and I learned about myself. At the end of the book, you'll see a couple of the things that in the last pages you'll see on there. Some of the things that I've done. I do lectures. I've done inspirational lectures for major corporations, institutions, and I still do it. And I'm trying to get back to doing it again for schools. But it says on there in the last page, on the next to the last page. The last page is a picture of Pam Rice,
mm-hmm.
who's a Chicago girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's a sailor out of Jackson Park Harbor.
Mm.
She did all the illustration.
Okay.
She's done about 25 children's books. So, next page on that, okay, you'll see, what did I learn?
Yes, what did you learn? Having a dream is a good thing because it gives you a goal to go after. You also learned help is always there if you are willing to ask. That's powerful. And then people are very much alike once you meet them and are willing to only judge them as individuals, not as groups. You learn that difficulties pass with time and you should not let setbacks stop you from going after your dreams. Powerful. And then finally, you can never get too much education and read. Learning is a lifetime goal.
But other than that, the first one I usually lead off with is, you're smarter than you think you are. Because everything you see, touch, smell, hear, taste, it all goes in here.
Mm-hmm.
Getting it back out sometimes is pretty hard, which you just saw me doing, trying to get it back out.
Yeah.
So you're smarter than you think you are.
Yeah.
Second thing I learned was you're dumber than you think you are. Because a lot of the things you think you know, you don't know. Understand, there's a lot of stuff you don't know. So pay attention. Remember, you got one mouth but two ears. Listen, two eyes look and see.
Classic African American saying. Yes, that is. One mouth and two ears. All right. And so if there were anything, we have your book here. We're going to have your book here in DeSalvo's store, hopefully. Let's talk about that. And if there's one thing you would like to tell us or tell young people, you wanted to do this so your grandchildren could have a reason to brag, have something.
Have a goal to set. I don't want them to be sailors because they're not sailors. They don't even want to go. And the young people that I talk to, I'm not proselytizing for sailing. Mm-hmm. I love sailing's a great thing. It encompasses so many things. What I'm trying to do is inspire them to dream and to go after their dream. One of the other things.
Hold this. Can you show that while you finish up? One of the other things, what? Just show the cover while you finish up.
One of the things to understand that it's important to have dreams, and you understand this. There is a difference between a dream and a fantasy. A fantasy is what happens to you. I just spent $5 on a fantasy this morning when I went out. I bought a Mega Million ticket, a lotto, and 2 scratch-offs. That's a fantasy. I know that's a fantasy. Okay. A dream is what you make happen. And the dream itself is the ultimate goal. You may never get to the dream, but on the way there, if you have a dream, so many things will happen to you that the dream may just diminish in importance and in magnitude by what happens to you on the way. But if you don't start and you don't, like I say, tell people about your dream, stick to it. When adversity knocks you down, get up and walk on. That's what's important about it. And that's what I want young people to know. The boat got knocked down 2 times. The boat weighed 4 tons. Knocked right on its side. Bam. It rolled back up because it has a keel, lead on the bottom. It's built to do that. Knock it down, it rolls right back up. And that's what you have to build into you. That ability that when you get knocked down, have your keel. It may be a friend, it may be a Bible verse, it may be something you heard of that can right you right back up on your bottom so you can keep sailing. And that's the thing. These are the lessons I learned in what I was doing. And that's what I want people to learn about. And seeing it in action, that it actually happens, it can be accomplished. That was my dream. Everybody has a circumnavigation dream. Very few, if any, have a dream that's about sailing around the world. But to them, whatever they're doing, it's like
they still have to navigate it.
It's their circumnavigation.
Yes.
It may be to get a better education. It may be to be a better parent, to be a better spouse. So many other things involved in it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for stopping by today. We appreciate you. I've greatly enjoyed hearing your story, and we're going to have the book in the bookstore. I look forward to reading it. Thank you.